Hello, good day, everyone, wherever you're joining from. My name is Daniel, and welcome to today's Red Bull Hands-on Lab. Today, we'll be looking at how you, as a developer or user of data from a race information, would be able to create an interactive map that is based on the data. So, before we start into the lab materials, allow me to show you a video of this race. We'll talk more about this race actually, but yeah, there is actually the highlights of this race that I would like to share with everybody. So yeah, if you're in an open space where there are other people around you, you might want to put on your headphones or turn on mute on your computer before I do that. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. I hope you're pumped up with that video. That shows the excitement of F1 race and the win that was by Max Verstappen, who is one of the youngest F1 racer who won the race, especially in his home ground in Holland. So today our lab will come from this link. If you have your browser open, you can use the URL that is shown here. You can use a short URL, bit.ly/3wb3xxd. If you have your mobile with you and you're joining from a mobile phone, feel free to use the QR code that is shown on the slide and join the lab itself. Also, if you have not started your free cloud account trial from Oracle, we welcome you to create your own free tier because it will be required for today's workshop. It's free and you can actually get it from oracle.com/cloud/free. We only need to key in your credit card. I think most of you who are registered will be whitelisted, but if you have not registered earlier, you may have to be required to enter credit card information. But for those who are whitelisted, you just need to provide an email address and you'll be offered a trial credit to perform and test the cloud platform. Most of the services are fully functional with this cloud environment, except for some of the ones that are a bit exceeding the credit limits that will be provided in the trial account. So without further ado, let me move on to the lab today. So today's lab to create a racetrack will be consisting of 5 sections. First of it will be going through how you can provision or create an Oracle Analytics Cloud instance on Oracle Cloud. And then we'll move, while the cloud is being provisioned, cloud analytics, being provisioned, we will actually move on to the second part where we will use an external tool to create a line and point data set from the map. This will be required for us to be imported later on in Oracle Analytics to create a visualized depiction of the data set. This is actually using an open tool. I will talk about it after this, but there are actually Oracle alternative or options. We will not talk about the Oracle option today, but we are using it. Using an open source tool for this workshop. For section 3, we would be importing all the created JSON code into Oracle Analytics and then see how they can interact with each other in Oracle Analytics Cloud. And then after that, we will link in Lab 4 the data set with the map that will be created, and also to see how they can be shown on the map itself, or maybe how you can change and customize the map. And finally, we will be talking about how you, as a developer or the report creator, would have the option to use Google Maps as a map background if you have the developer API key for this. I'll take a pause here. If you have any question at any point of time during this lab, please feel free to put it into the Q&A, and one of my colleagues in the team and also in this session will be happy to pick them up and answer the question. I may also pause at some points between this workshop to answer some questions if there are any, and I hope that you enjoy this time with us. So let me just go to the lab itself first to talk about the win that Max Verstappen did for the Red Bull Racing at the time. So in this introduction, we'll see that the Red Bull Racing Honda took this podium, won the podium on 21st of 5th of September 2021. That means September last year. And this happened in Netherlands, in the racetrack called Zandvoort, sorry. And it is consisting of 14 turns and 3 sections that can be, where accelerations can happen, where actions can happen. So if you can look at my screen, and you can see in your lab material as well, that this track itself is 4.25 kilometer, and the total race itself is 306 kilometer. So basically, because it's kind of a short circuit, there are more laps. So at the end, it's about 72 laps in total that Max Verstappen had to conquer, and win the other drivers in the track. So what do we want to do with this information? So the data set that we are going to share would actually is a track of how the speed of the driver is, and how the turns, how each turn will cause the slowdown, how much the slowdown was caused by the turn, sorry, and how fast was the maximum speed for each of this section. And then we will also look at how, with this data, we can represent them in a map view, which you can see. This is the final output, and entire process in Oracle Analytics Cloud. And of course, a bit of the extra time will be allocated with integrating Google Maps into Oracle Analytics. So far, do you have any question or any issue with the trial account? Maybe I'll give you 2 to 5 minutes to set it up if you have not done it. I would not be going through the process to set up the trial account, because this information will be provided in your email, in your invitation email. But if you have any issue with it, please feel free to raise it in Q&A, and we'll be happy to pick it up for you. While waiting, if you can look at the chat in the, oh no, okay, it's not shared there. So we actually have a public Slack channel, and if you have any question, you are welcome to join it. The Slack channel workspace is called Oracle Dev REL, sorry. Yeah, Jane has already posted into the Slack channel, and also I will also share the Slack link into the group. So you can actually, if you don't know the link for the trial account, you can actually go to, this is the workshop for those with tenancy. You might be able to search Red Bull in the live labs. And then when you click the one with the race interactive map, you will have an option for the free trial workshop. And with this, you'll have the steps to go through how this can be done in a trial account. Oh, sorry, always free workshop. Then under this get started, you have the steps to create free trial accounts. I hope that answers your question. So just a quick 1 minute. When you're here, you need to enter your information, where you're from, the email, and then you will receive an Oracle Cloud account email to sign up. And if your email is whitelisted, you just need to provide your information of address and your contact details, and you can skip the payment input because you will be whitelisted, and automatically the pop-up will show you that you're being offered a trial by Oracle team. And once you accept the offer, you will be given this access details at the end in your email. So let us start with Lab 1. In Lab 1, we will provision an Oracle Analytics Cloud instance in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So the objective of this is to be able to log in as a user into the Oracle Cloud platform, and also to create an Oracle Analytics Cloud instance. So when you're in Oracle Cloud, you will be given this option to see what kind of user you are. So let me share the screen quickly and show you what kind of users there are in Oracle Analytics, Oracle Cloud Platform. So there are 3 kinds of users. One is the federated user. So these are the users that can be created by an admin, for example, you, as the trial tenancy administrator or owner. So this account will be used to perform single sign-on to the console. And also some of them will be set up by default into the services inside Oracle Cloud, especially the native services. Some of the cloud services require a separate kind of users, but most of them will be able to take federated users. The second type of user would be the provision or synchronized user. And this is created when the user is added by an admin into Oracle Cloud. And this is created automatically by Oracle Cloud itself. So this user is used for synchronizing identity to separate identity store. And basically, it is used to manage some of the keys, etc. If the service requires a key control or authorization for access. So the permission for this second or synchronized user will be the same as the one that is provided by the administrator in the federated user, but then it will be managed internally by the Oracle Cloud itself when it comes to creating of the permission. And finally, we have some Oci Local Users where it is only for Oracle Cloud infrastructure. That means no access to the services, only for the Cloud Console. And this is managed by the administrator of the cloud platform. We will not be talking about the other two, but only the first one, because this is the one we'll be using to provision our Oracle Analytics Cloud. So I'll take a pause here. If you have any question about the kind of users that will be used for Oracle Analytics login or even the provisioning of the service, please feel free to ask in our Q&A. But for now, I will move on to the second lab. So for the second lab, we will be building using the external open source tool called geojson.io. And we would draw, if you're artistic, I hope you have you get your art skill ready to draw a line along the circuit in Zandvoort to split them to lines and points that will be used and used to generate data, GeoJSON data for our Oracle map. So we will be looking at how this drawing can be done. It's actually manual. You have to draw it by hand. And then we'll also see where we can plot the turns of each of the turning of the circuit and to tag them in our drawing. And then these two data sets will be exported before we move on to lab 3. So when you log in into or not log in, when you open the open source tool, you don't have to log in. But what you can do is go to the top right corner and enter this address. You will be getting this address in the trial lab, the lab information as well, so that the map will zoom into this circuit map. So this is just a note to all of the attendees that you may have to do this. If not, you have to scroll in, zoom in manually to the map itself. As for the sectors, you will have to put tags for the 3 sectors that you would draw. The information will be provided in the lab itself, but there is a reference of what the sectors, how the sectors are separated. So in short, there are 3 ways that these sectors can be drawn. Let me draw this out quickly and show you how it looks like easily. So the first part is here, you can see it starts from here, sorry. And then it goes all the way to the podium of the straightest part of the circuit. So this is where the podiums are. And then after that, the second section will start from, sorry, that's the first section actually. So the first section is where the car starts, the one I'm drawing now. The first section will stop here after five turns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is where the end of sector 1 is. And sector 2 will start with the biggest curves and where the most action happens, the overtaking and etc. And finish at the beginning of sector 3. And sector 3 will start before the 3 speed sections in this final part of the map. So for each of the sectors, I would like to highlight that you would be required to put in a property attribute called name and the sector of the name of the sector. So the first one would be sector 1, this would be sector 2, and this would be sector 3. You will see why we need to do this later on in the Oracle Analytics section. As for the points of turning, it's the same. You can use a different tool, which is this placeholder or place marker tool. We'll go through this in the live demo after this. And you can just plot where each of these turnings are. Just note that wherever there's turn, you put a marker, and then you can put in a name for each of these turns. So the first one starts here, and the last one ends here. 14. Yeah, 14. Right. And when after we go through lab 2, 3, and 4 in Oracle Analytics Cloud, we have an additional option to change the background map that is in the map view of Oracle Analytics using Google Maps. So with that, you will have to create a Google developer account if you don't have one already, and get the API key for Google Maps, create one, and then get the API key to be integrated with Oracle Analytics. So if you do not have a developer account, feel free to create it. It might take a while, but if you have one, you can use a key that you have created for Google Maps and use it. But if you have no time or you would not care so much for Google Maps integration, there are quite a few options already built into Oracle Analytics for map option, and they look quite similar to Google Maps anyway. So there are some useful links. Once you finish your Oracle developer workshops, you will have this opportunity to earn your badge, and there is a Slack channel that you can join to learn about all the information of the Red Bull detail and also the workshop itself. So, are you ready to start your engine? Let's go into the actual demo itself. You can feel free to follow me as I do it. You can do tag along, or do it at your own pace. And if you have any question at any point of the time in your lab, raise it in the Q&A, and our team will pick it up and answer it for you. So let me go back to the browser itself. When you're in this lab, you can have a look at this get started for the ones that use trial account. And for those who have already gotten your account access, so what you want to do is to go to your Oracle Cloud and log into it. So in my case, if let's say I use a different browser just to be clean and show you how it works. So when you go into Oracle Cloud, you'll be required to provide a tenancy, right? So this is your cloud account name. And once you provide the cloud tenancy, it will ask you to log in with your administrator account. The administrator for your tenancy will by default be your email address that you use to receive the tenancy accounts details. So that will be your email. And if you have not created or reset the password for it, the link is available in the email. And once you have reset the password, you'll be able to enter them. I might have clicked it while I talk too fast. I choose the Oracle Identity Service as my provider of this cloud tenancy. So that would be default for you, I think, because we are our tenancy is doing some kind of migration. So this is the default that you will see in your identity provider drop-down list. Just choose this and continue, and you'll be able to log into your Oracle Oracle Cloud Administrator account. Right. Okay. So I'll take a pause here. Is everyone able to log into your console? Could you let us know if you have some difficulties doing this? If you have already attended the previous labs before, then I think you would have no issue with this. But maybe for those who are new, if you have any issue, please feel free to raise it in our chat or Q&A, and we'll be happy to jump in and assist you. Okay, so if there's no issue, let me just go back to the workshop. So when you log into your ID, you can see that the profile has a prefix of Oracle Identity Cloud Service. So if this is correct, if it's shown there, then you're logging into the correct user. And this is a federated user. Remember the three types of user I talk about. So a federated user is an account that can be created and managed by administrator. So the account that we'll be using is a federated user. And then we want to go to Oracle Analytics Cloud. So what you do is in the top left menu, click Analytics and AI, and select Analytics Cloud. So over here, you will see the Analytics Instance Manager or console. Console. And what you can do is, you don't have to do what I'm doing, but just make sure that you have the option to create instance here at the top left. If not, you might want to go and open your root, and you would have some managed compartment inside as an option. Just select one where you can see create instance. Right. So if you see this, feel free to click create instance, enter the details of the instance that you require. Make sure that you choose the number of OCPU. We recommend 2 and above for production, but for the purpose of this lab, you can keep your cloud CPU as 1. There will be no heavy workload for this session. And then finally, there are 2 types of licenses. So one is to provision a new Oracle Analytics, or if your current organization, or if you have a license from Oracle Business Intelligence, you can actually use this, bring your own license to provision a new Oracle Analytics Cloud. So with that, you can actually click create, and it will take about 15 to 20 minutes to provision the analytics instance. So I would not be creating one because I already have one instance, but if you do not have it, please proceed and go ahead and create this analytics instance. Sorry, I see a question from Arvin about kindly repeat this step. Could you share which step you're looking for? So while waiting for a reply from Arvin, oh, okay, right. So once you're in the Cloud Console, on the top left, there's a menu that you can click, and then here you can click Analytics, or if you want to search, you can just say Analytics Cloud, and it will be shown as a result in the Services sector. And on the left side, you will probably see if there's a new compartment, a root, which is the basic one. You can actually create a compartment here, an instance here, or you can actually create in the manage compartment under it. So when you click create instance, you'll be required to enter the name of the instance, for example, read pool, and then give a description if you want. Make sure the compartment is the one that you want the analytics instance to sit in, and then how many cloud processor you want this instance to use. So for this lab purposes, we can just choose one. It won't affect any performance. And if you have any question about what are feature sets of analytics, so there are 2 kinds of Oracle Analytics Cloud. One is Enterprise Analytics, and one is Self-Service Analytics. The difference between Self-Service Analytics and Enterprise Analytics are
additional features and functions that comes with enterprise. For example, the ability to access the data model from a backend administration tool. You will be able to create private access channel to any on-premise sources, etc. So you will have some additional features that enterprise would normally use in the architecture to improve their workload management. But if you are just a single user, feel free to use just the self-service analytics in your actual tenancy, and that will actually reduce the cost. But please keep in mind there will be some restriction in some enterprise functionalities. So once you click create, it will take about 10 to 15 minutes for the service to be ready. And once the service is ready, you will see the service appearing here. So just like this here, and then you can click on the instance to see the details, the information when it's created, what kind of service feature set it is. And the most important one that we will need is this link to access the environment. So you can either click on it to open the URL, the analytics instance, or click copy and then put it in your browser. Okay, I will take a pause here. Do you have any question so far? Okay, so those of you who are already able to create an Oracle Analytics instance, what you can do is click on the link, and you will come to a login page. So this will be the login to the Analytics instance. Oh, sorry. What's the issue? Just a second. All right, it's fine. So if you're here and if you're able to see the Oracle Analytics Cloud page, homepage, feel free to start lab 1 to lab 2 to lab 5. You are ready to go to import data, or even to go to this section to draw the map. If you have created a provision analytics instance and waiting for it, you can also go to this lab and start to do the steps. I will walk through them briefly, but I have some questions from the audience, and let me just go through them one by one. So I have a question about authorization failed or requested resource not found. Okay, so my colleague highlighted that if you just provision a new trial tenancy, it will take between 5 to 10 minutes before all the services are available for provisioning. So for the users, for the audience who have seen authorization failed or requested resource not found, please wait a few more minutes and then just try again. I think you will be getting a separate email to say that your cloud account is ready for use. So if you see that email, that means all the services are ready for provisioning, and then you will be able to provision Oracle Analytics Cloud. So if you are waiting for that to happen, please feel free to come to this link, geojson.io, and you will see this map, and then see in the lab material, there's this URL or address that you can use to search in a map. It will be called 201441 KP Zandvoort, Netherlands. Copy and paste that into the search bar on top. You'll be given some options. So we want the first one, KP. And here the map will zoom into the circuit. You can actually see this here, the Circuit Zandvoort. Yeah. So once you are here, let us move to lab 2. And for lab 2, we are talking about drawing this circuit. But how do I know where the sectors separated? So here under this first picture, there is a link to Circuit Zandvoort. This is the official page of the Zandvoort circuit from Formula One website.
And you can see that there are three colors. So it's a bit, it's actually 180 degrees flip from the map itself. Don't know why the direction is like this. But you can see that the first sector is the red color one, where it starts from the middle of the straight circuit where the podium is. And then it will stop after the fifth turn at the beginning of the sixth turn. So first 6 turns will be sector 1, and sector 2 will go all the way until the beginning before 11, turn 11. So you see a big curve, wide curve here. That's where it ends. And then the third sector will be the remaining until the middle where the podium is. So how do we do this? Pretty simple. In this GeoJSON tool, there are a few options for you to draw. I will use the polyline option to draw this. And let me start with sector 1, where it's like the middle of the podium, which is here. And then draw a line, click first, and then draw a line to the end of the circuit. And then do a turn down to my second turn. And then the third turn, the fourth turn, fifth turn, and the sixth turn. We will stop here and click on the same point to end sector 1. Next, we want to put a tag to say this is sector 1. So what you can do is put name and then colon sector 1. Don't put a space after sector, just keep the space, just remove the space in between the sector and 1. So just follow this instruction. You can see that is name sector 1. Okay, so let's go on to sector 2. Again, using the same draw a polyline tool. Start at the end of sector 1 and then continue on to turn number 7, longer one, and then 8, 9, 10, and then the big curve. And we'll stop just before turn 11 and finish this. So what you will see is if you scroll down the right side where the JSON codes are, you'll see another property that is empty. And with that, we'll fill in and call this sector 2. Okay, now for the final sector, again, click on the polyline tool. Start with the end of sector 2, go to turn 11, 12, down to turn 13, and then finally to the final part of the track and end just before the podium. So that's our sector 3, and let's put a tag to it. Name sector 3. All right, so we have finished drawing the lines of our sectors. How do I convert this into a GeoJSON file? It's pretty simple. What you can do is you can say save and GeoJSON. So you'll get a file downloaded, and it's called map.geojson. You can rename this later. So that would be the first part of lab 2. I'll give you guys a bit of time to draw the drawing before I continue with the second part of lab 2, which is to identify the turns. Is everybody able to create your analytics instance? If you have some issue, please feel free to let us know in the chat or the Q&A, and our analyst team will be happy to assist you. For those of you who are not able to log into Oracle Cloud, is it because you have an issue with the with the sign up for trial accounts, or is it because you sign up but you didn't receive the email? For both of these issues, please feel free to let us know, and our team will be happy to help you to sign up to this trial account. All right. So while you're doing the drawing, if you have done it, great. If not, maybe you can pause a little while. Let me just show you how to do the turning points. So when using the same tool, geojson.io, click new, a new window will open. And again, I want to look for the address of the circuit. I found it. And now I want to mark all the turns that are currently sitting in the circuit. So the same information is available here in this circuit. The first one will start from the end of the straight part of the circuit, the very long straight part. This is where 1 will start, and it will end in 14 at the bottom. So same as your lab, you'll see the outcome. You will have this also shown here. All right, so the total number of turns will be 14. If you like to do with me, feel free to tag along. So the first one will be at the end of this long circuit. So I click on it and I call it turn 1 in my property, right? And the next one will be on the here, will be turn 2. Wait, is it correct? Check. Oh no, it's a curve. So turn 2 will be here. There's some sand there. Just put turn 2. And then the third turn will be here at the end, like a U shape, horseshoe turn. Turn 3. Next one is a bit of a small curve here, turn 4. Five, longer one. And 6, the end of sector 1. Then we'll go to turn 7, which is a massive turn, where a lot of takeover action will happen in the actual race. Turn 8 will be here at the corner. Turn 9 will be very shortly after that. And turn 10 will be a tough. Actually, a lot of cars will be stranded on this turn in turn 10 because it's quite a tight turn and they're actually going at pretty high speed. Well, thank goodness for the sand protection around it. Next, we'll go to turn 11, which is this sudden stop at the end of sector 2 and the beginning of sector 3. Turn 12 will be the 12. Let me check where is 12. 12 is at the U shape. Yes, this is turn 12. Turn 13 will be at the end of this final turny, twisty part. And turn 14 will be just before the final speed of the track, speeding part of the track. So total of 14 turns plotted on the map. And then you can again save this as a GeoJSON file. And yeah, okay, you can rename it later. But yeah, I hope you find this, it's not very tedious because it's a one-time job, but it's an open source tool. So of course, there are some limitations in the features. We have another tool in Oracle called Oracle Spatial Studio. You can install that in a local machine or in a compute image, and that will offer you a lot more functionalities than just plotting and generating GeoJSON file. You can also do a lot more like analysis of different layers of coordinates or geometry data, and then export the out output or result of the analysis to Oracle Analytics as well as GeoJSON. But for the sake of this workshop, this is the fastest thing to create the GeoJSON file. I'll take a pause here and give you guys some time to do the plotting. For first-time user, you might find it a bit, not sure where to click. So yeah, I'll give you a bit of time before I move on to lab number 3. If you have any question while you're doing it, feel free to raise it in the question and answer section or in the chat. And if I can see them, I will try to answer them during this lab. Great. I think I will move on to the next section. For lab 3, please keep in mind that you will need your Oracle Analytics Cloud instance ready. If any one of you are still waiting for the Analytics Cloud to be provisioned, please let me know so that I can just hold on a little bit longer and also give some time to the others to draw the map. But if not, I will just continue with lab 3 and to demonstrate how the data that we export from geojson.io can be imported into Oracle Analytics Cloud. Okay, so let me move on then. So in lab 3, the GeoJSON files that we generated just now with the geojson.io website will be imported into Oracle Analytics as a map layer. So you can have multiple GeoJSONs imported into Oracle Analytics, and each of them will be treated as a map layer in Oracle Analytics. So there are some prerequisites that I mentioned earlier as well. And one of the additional things that you may want to take note is that you should be given the access of a BI service administrator in the application role of Oracle Analytics Cloud. So inside Oracle Analytics, there are a few different kinds of rules to allow for role-based access to different functionalities of Oracle Analytics Cloud. But if you are the one who created this service, the Analytics instance, you will be by default given the BI service administrator role. So if that's the case, you don't have to worry about this. If you are using an existing Oracle Analytics Cloud instance, then you may want to see if you are given this right. So how do you do this? So when you are in the Oracle Analytics Cloud homepage, if you click on your profile on the top right, you'll be able to see your details. And then, I could be wrong. So you will be able to, I think you have to check with your administrator then. So if you're an administrator, you can see from the left menu of Oracle Analytics under console and user and role, a separate page will pop up that shows you all the users that are currently in the Oracle Cloud itself, and also the groups, and finally the application roles that are available. So for yourself, you want to find a wildcard, for example, this one, and you can actually add a user to this. And then find your username and then add it to this list of BI service user. All right. I hope you're able to do that. You don't have to do it by default, but if you do not have access as an administrator, you might want to ask your administrator of the analytics service to do this for you. I don't think you can do it for yourself. Definitely not. Okay, moving on. Once you're an administrator of this, you want to go to the console, again on the left menu, and then access the maps. So here is where you can import your GeoJSON file
and create a map layer that you have just created. So what I have was map and map one. So map would be for my sectors. I just drag and drop into this. Oh, let me refresh. I don't know if it's actually. Oh, okay, it didn't happen. Okay, I'll just click on it and select them. So click and select my map file. See that you can only import a GeoJSON format file. Click open, and then make sure that you click on the key. So the key that was being used, generated by this, is this map that we put in the property, right? So name is our key, and that's the value of the key. So we want to use name to link with the data that we have from the sample data and give it a name. So this will be sectors. Do the same for the points. Import the second geojson and say turns. Again, make sure you select the key. And then you will see the two different map layers created here. Let me take a pause here and let you guys attempt this import. If you have any issue, please feel free to put in the chat or Q&A, and we'll see if there's anything we can do to help you. This should be quite straightforward, and because the number of information we added to the map is not that much, so it should be quite fast. Great. That's all for lab number 3. So next, what we can do is go back to the home page of Oracle Analytics and move to lab number 4. So to go back to the home page, all you need to do is click on the top left arrow and you'll come back to the home page itself. Okay, so for lab number 4, we want to first import the data set that will be used for the map. In the first task of lab number 4, you will see this option where the file will be called Netherlands Grand Prix Excel file. And if you open the Excel file, there will be 2 sheets inside. So the first sheet will be, oops, sorry. Let me open an Excel. The first sheet will be called turns, and it's actually where the turn information is for the 14 turns. And then the number 2 is a segment where it will map where the sectors are, just to make sure that this can be the one-to-one mapping with the map that was created. You don't have to do this every time when you use this export function, but for the purpose of this workshop, this is the fastest way where you can map the GeoJSON map layer with the dataset later using name. Right, so how do we do this? What we can do is we will go to the top right corner of Analytics Home, click Create, click on New Dataset. And over here, you have a few options to import your data. So in our case, we have Oracle Excel file as our source, but you can see here there are other options such as the Oracle Autonomous Database that is sitting in Oracle Cloud that can be used. Or if you have something else that you want to use as your source, just click Create Connection and you will see all the built-in connectors available for you to tap into to connect directly to your sources. So some of them include Dropbox or applications, Azure Synapse Analytics, MongoDB, etc., etc. But we don't need a database for this purpose, so we just click on this drop down and select the dataset that will be used for the workshop. So Red Bull, Netherlands Grand Prix.
So now that the sheet is uploaded into Oracle Analytics, you get to see the different sheets, worksheets currently sitting in this Excel file. I mentioned just now there's turn and segment to provide the map, but actually you will notice there's a second segment worksheet that contains some additional information in terms of max speed and minimum speed for the circuit in this sector. So what is this for? You will see later, but for now, we just need to import the segment as per the lab, just to provide the mapping. Click add, or you want to give it a name maybe. So just say F1 segments. Click add. And then you will see that the data is loaded here. So something interesting about this, the data preparation page, is that if you have many columns and many rows of data, you will see that there are some suggested graphs or creation that, oh no, not graphs, sorry, the suggested parameters or analytics of this column itself. For example, what is the maximum value? What is the range of the value that are sitting in this column? What are the total number of different unique values in the dimensions or attributes? So this will be shown at the top directly, especially when you have many columns that you want to manage. It will be very helpful for you to do it. So in the next step, we want to associate the map layer with a column of the data. So this will make sure that the key that was identified when we create or import the data as a map layer and link it with this data set to show that, okay, this is the same column that can be used as a key when you refer to that map. So over here under the map layer, you can see that we have two map layers that we have already brought in earlier. So in our case, I want to use the sector to map. Oh, not sure if you see this issue. Are you getting this error as well as participants? Because I have this dot sector error. Whereas if I use someone that's earlier, no problem. Let me check if I made anything different. If you have any issue, could you just let us know when you select the map layer for the location related to join the relation of the column with the map. So name sector is correct. I didn't do anything wrong. I think maybe because there are too many layers with the same data inside. So, okay, let me just choose another one. You can see that the data is exactly the same. Sector 1, 2, 3. And then for this case, there is a direct match with the name. And with that, you see an additional step that is created on the left side. And it says change property. So what we did is to add a location detail to it. And to confirm all the changes, we'll click apply script. If you don't click apply script, the changes will not be taken in. You can just go back to your data set and continue to work with it. So now that we have associated the map with it, let's have a look in our visualization workbook. Let's just create a new workbook, just top right corner, click create workbook. Wait, that's lab number 4. We were at lab number 4. And what we want to do is to show the map in the visualized format. So what we can do is to click name and value. You can right click and select best. Oracle Analytics Cloud will suggest the best visualization for it. And using using AI, it actually thinks that the best view for these columns would be a map, which is correct. So here you will see that they're all in the same color, which I don't really might care for. So what I want to do, I want to show the 3 different sectors. So what I do is I will add the name from the left and drag it into the color section of the map properties. And here you can see the 3 different sectors that we've drawn with the GeoJSON tool earlier. So first sector from the podium, second sector up to turn number 6, and then the final sector to finish at the podium. So this proves that the map joining is working, that the data is able to look at the columns and then map it onto the map layers that we have imported with the GeoJSON file. Now, the next question is, hey, but it doesn't give me anything, no value, it's just to map the sectors with the map layer. What if I want to do some visualization for other information? So that's what we will do right now. Let's go back to data and edit this data set that we have created earlier. You can click on the pen, by the way. Clicking on the pen is editing, will lead you to a new window to edit the data set. And on the top right corner, you can see edit definition. Clicking on this will allow you to re-import the data for this data set. So you don't have to create a brand new data set. You can just reuse the same data set name, F1 segments, and then import a different file. You can see here, now if I choose the second sheet with the bracket tool, you will see additional 2 columns, maximum speed and minimum speed for each of the sector. So this proves that this data set is flexible enough for you to take in additional columns that can be using the same data set name without impacting your visualization. So this will be demonstrated very quickly. So once I click OK, you can see the 2 additional columns. You can see here, this is a range of the speed, maximum speed, the range of a minimum speed, and the values that are under this column. So in this case, we have only 3 values. So you can see 3 bars, but you have many more. You actually create kind of like a histogram of the total number of data and show you what's the value spread. Great. So now what we can do is you can either come back to this visualize, or you can create a new workbook. But I just come back to this workbook and you will see that it's already, the 2 extra column is already refreshed and added to this workbook that uses this data set. So all this is seamless. All this will be cascaded directly to all the other workbook that uses this data set. Now, any changes you make you won't have to apply to every single workbook. It's applied directly. So now I want to, according to lab, I want to show how fast the maximum speed is for each of the sector. So what I do is I drag the maximum speed into the size. So the thicker the lines are, the faster the car was on this sector. So over here, you can see that the maximum speed for sector 1 is 164. And the second is the slowest at 154 kilometers an hour. And then for sector 3, the maximum speed is 170 kilometers an hour. And it kind of makes sense because this sector 2 has the most number of turns. So the car would not have a lot of opportunity to speed up or accelerate. Whereas this one in sector 3 has the longest straight line in the circuit. So it would have a higher opportunity for the car to reach maximum speed. So that is for the sectors. Let's move on to task number 2, or maybe before I go on, let me have a pause, take a pause here and give you some time. If you have any question, please let me know. Feel free to put it in the chat or Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer it. There is an additional step 19 and 20 here, and some renaming if you want. So we can go through it, but I want to make sure everybody is able to see the visualization right now before we go to the changing the properties or renaming and reorganizing the layers of the map. All right. I hope you're able to come up with this map visualization. It's pretty cool to see your own drawing being presented in a way that data can use it to present some information. So the next thing that was suggested in the lab that we will do is to change some of the properties of the map itself. I'm just going to split this into two sections so that I can see both side by side. So the first thing that we can do is to change the color of the sectors. So now it's blue, orange, and like cyan, but we want something that will follow closer to this color, the Grand Prix color, which is red, blue, and yellow. So what we can do is go to the sector color. Right on. Sorry. Go on to the color option. Sorry, and then click on the drop down and say Manage Assignment. So Manage Assignment gives the user an option to manually assign or change the color scheme of this particular view. So you can have multiple maps in this one page, but for this single map, I want to change the default color scheme to something else that is, a bit more natural, like green, or pleasant to the eyes, or something a bit more contrasty, like the spectrum. And then you can see that it's more, bright and more contrasty. But that's not what we want. We want to set a fixed color for each of the sectors. So for sector 1, we want red, and you can see the lab material. It provides a suggestion of the hex code that can be used for the color. So in this case, ED6647. Click enter, and you can see the color is a little bit orange. It's not red. The second sector will be this color. Click on the color box, and you'll be able to enter this hex color code. Again, this is like a light blue color for sector number 2. And then finally, according to this lab material, we are supposed to use dark blue for the third sector. So in this case, it's actually more like black already. Oh, actually, okay. All right. So now you can see that the map is represented in these 3 new colors that you manually assign. Next thing, we want to rename this layer, because here, if you look at the top section, top part of this layer, it's called name layer. It doesn't tell me much what this layer consists of. So what we can do is we can rename this map to identify what this layer is for. So what we can do is on the left side of the workbook, you can see this option that says data layers. Clicking on this, we'll have an option to see the name of this current layer. It's currently set as auto, but what we want to do is to customize this. You can see it's custom, and give it a name, LineString. Once you click enter, you will see that the name of this map layer is updated to LineString. And if you see this dash next to it, it actually is a line. So it corresponds to this second option in the parameter, which is called layer type, and it's like if I change it to point, you can see that now it becomes a dot. But this doesn't make sense to us because what we want is to showcase the circuit sectors. So line it is. And now we want to save this. So what you can do is the top right, there's a save icon, or for those who are from an older generation, a diskette icon. Click save. And you can either save it in your personal folder, or you can actually save it in a shared folder for use by other users. So what you do is just click on all, and then click on shared folders, and you can create new folders inside, and then save it there. So for my own use, I just need to save it in my own folder. Let's say F1 Zandvoort. Right. Great. So the name of the workbook that is saved is shown on the top left corner. So you will get this notification that the workbook is saved, but it's generating a thumbnail. So it might take some time depending on how complex the workbook is. But yeah, you can skip it. It doesn't matter. What it does is actually create a very nice visualization of your workbook here in the first page. Let's see, is it not showing up? Yeah, here. You can see this screenshot. Yeah, so this is what that notification does. It's taking a snapshot of this so that your icon will look nicer in the main portal. Right, so let's move on to task number 2. Again, same thing. We want to import the map layer. Oh, I think we haven't created the data set. So okay, let's create a data set. Okay, maybe I try something a bit different. So while you're in the workbook, some of you may have question. Oh, sorry, not this one. While you're in the workbook, some of you may have a question about, hey, what is there a way for me to join multiple data directly inside this workbook without me going out from this place to go to home or go to other place? Yes, the answer is yes. So let's say I want to add the turn information that I create that I have in my worksheet into this workbook that already has this turning information, the sector information. So on the top left corner of the workbook, you can have an add option and click add dataset. So here you can see that there are some existing dataset that has been imported into Oracle Analytics Cloud, but for ours, we don't have the information yet. So what I do is I will create a dataset directly from here. A new window will come up. And again, the same way as you did with the sectors, you just click on the same Excel file. And then make sure that you select turns in the workbook sheet. And then maybe this one, I would say F1 turn, circuit turns. Right. So 14 turns. I have a name. I make sure the correct sheet is correct, selected. Now I will click add. So again, we want to associate this dataset with the map layer that was imported, the turn maps. So in the name column, we want to use this name as a key that will map to the name key of the map layer. Select location details. And then this time, turn has no error. I have no idea what happened with the sector earlier, but yeah, this is the one that we imported, turns. And then it will automatically match, and with 100% confidence because it's a one-to-one match with the map key of the map layer. So with this, you'll see again on the left side that there's a change in the property to indicate that the map linking is successful. We apply this script, right? And then can go back and see that the data is created, F1 circuit turns. When we go back to the workbook, you can see that now the dataset is actually showing up in my selection. And what is interesting is it actually automatically filter this selections of dataset options for datasets to the one that you have just created. So you don't have to search for it. You can just click on the first option and then click add to workbook to continue with the second dataset in your in our workbook here in Oracle Analytics Cloud. So I hope that you are able to follow at the moment. I will just take a pause here before I move on to something a bit more interesting in terms of creating joins between tables or removing joins between tables. So here you can see that these two data sets are created and are imported into this workbook, and they are linked because here there is no segregation between the two. So if I actually take all of this value and I take all of this value and I put it into, I pick a visualization table, for example, and I click all the segment ones and I drag and drop into this, there will be no issue.
all of them will be there. There's no sector value, so there's no join, obviously. But yeah, so the turns and the sectors can be put into a single table as a join. But it doesn't make sense because they are not really joined in this area. The name is turn and sector, and they're representing different data sets. So we are not going to do this, and we want to remove this relationship between these two data sets because they are not really related. How do I do that? I can do this without leaving this workbook by clicking on the data page on the top. And then here you can see the two different data sets, the segment and the circuit turns. And automatically, Oracle Analytics Cloud saw that there are two columns with the same names. So it actually used machine learning to guess that this could be the link, the join that you want to have between these two tables. And there's a match, name and name. It will actually look at the data type as well. So if let's say this is the name here is actually a number, but the name in the second table is an attribute, it will not match. So it will only match if the data type is also the same between the two different tables. That is if you want this join, but in our case, we don't want this join. So what we do is either click on this X to delete this individual match, or delete all the match by clicking delete all matches and click OK. It will ask you to confirm to make sure that this is what you want. And then now you can see that the link is no longer there between the two tables, two data sets. And here you will see now a line that segregates these two. Let me go back to the visualize section of the workbook by clicking on visualize at the top. Here again, you will see the line that separates the two different data sets, but I can still use these two data sets in my map. So what can I do? If you look at your map, the lab material in task 2, there's an option for you to create a new layer. So what we want to do is select the name and the value. I'm sorry, I want to add a layer first for the map. So currently I'm using LineString layer, but I want a new layer. So add layer in the map. And then I want to drag my name to the location. And then value for the size again, just to show that there's no correlation, it's all one, just to map that there's this turning point here. So straight away, you will see this being depicted, two layers together on top of each other. And I'm just going to give this a name, the second layer, by clicking on the map. On the left side, the properties, I expand the one that is not the line, customize, and give it a name. This one will be called the point layer. As per step number 13 of task 2. You can leave the others by default because with machine learning, it identifies that this is actually a point data based on the map layer information. And then that's all you need to do. You can actually adjust the transparency if you want to, blend the two different maps together. But yeah, for our purpose, it would not make sense to do it. Again, you have the option to change the color. So first, we want to drop down the size and say manage color assignments. So this is actually a range. If you see it here, it's a range of colors. The darker it is, the bigger the value is. The lighter it is, the smaller the number is. This kind of color is applicable to measures or numbers that can be used for calculation. And what we do is we change this value to the suggested color, which is yellow. Put the hex color code in. And then you can see now that all the points will show same color because they're all one, just to like a flag to show where they are. But if you have a value that's like 5 or 10, the dot might become darker. So what have we done so far? Let's have a quick review. So from lab number 3, we imported the GeoJSON data as map layers into Oracle Analytics Cloud. Next, we
we're able to import the data set into two separate data sets, which is segment and the turns, based on the different worksheets in the data in the Excel file. And then we were able to bring the two different data sets into one single visualization, which is this map, as separate layers. If I look at this drop down, get two layers, and how we can associate the map layers with the data set that was imported. And finally, after we save it, we can actually share this in a share folder or import it into another environment. So there are some steps here where you can export and import this. We will not do this because we are using the environment that we provision. But you are able to export this. Let's just show this. Oh, sorry, not here. You can export it in the here. You can export this, and you can even put a password for it if you want it to be password protected, and then save this for import in another environment. So let me take a pause here before going on to lab number 5. Does any one of you have a question about this lab number 3 and 4? To work with the data in Oracle Analytics Cloud, to visualize the data, and also to see how data preparation can be done on the fly within the Oracle Analytics Cloud without you even have to leave the browser itself. No new services, no additional tool, just everything here within Oracle Analytics. Okay, great. So moving on to lab number 5 and the final part, it's actually just a very simple thing. It's actually just to showcase that Oracle Analytics Cloud support different kind of map background. What is a map background? So if we go to the console and click on console itself, under maps option, you have another tab beside the map layers called backgrounds. The default ones that come with the Oracle Analytics Cloud will be these 3 Oracle Maps, Oracle BI, and OpenStreetMap. So all this will be available out of the box, not out of the cloud, for users to use as the background for the map. But you have the option to create additional backgrounds, which, as you can see here, we have Google Maps, but there are others like Baidu Maps if you use Baidu, Web Map is another alternative third-party map services, and also Tower Web Map. So for Google Maps, the maps are available for external consumption via API access key from Google. So I already showcased that screenshot of the slide, but if you want to see how it looks like, so if you log into Google Maps, developers.google.com developer portal, you'll see that there is a guide for you to create an API key and generate the key code, which is this like API key. It's like a jumbled up number, encrypted number, for you to use to import Google Maps in Oracle Analytics or anywhere else, basically. So whenever you want to use the API to call a Google Maps function API, you have to provide API key like this example. So this one I think is to sync the source, initialize the map. So you have to put your API key is like a password for you to access the API. So we will not go through this step because this is optional. You can choose to use Google Maps, or we have other background maps that are available. But I will also walk through very briefly how Google Maps can be added. So back to these backgrounds. When I create a new background, I will have this ability to enter my key. So I would have to delete this first. Yes. Okay, add a new background, Google Maps. And here, there's actually nothing much for you to enter. It's very straightforward. It's basically to say Google Maps for circuit presentation. And our account type is regular.
we are just a normal user, but if you have a premium Google developer account, feel free to use it. And then we have a key that was generated from our Google Maps API, access key. So just copy and paste this key. And then you have an option to choose what kind of Google Map layer you want to show here. So we only have a choice of one type of map type. For Google Map, you have to choose it when you create the background map. So in my case, I think satellite will be good enough. You can option to have hybrid, where it will show the roads and also the terrain, where it will show the the mountains and the valleys in terms of ring layers. So for us, I just want to use satellite to present my circuit, and let me just save. I click save instead of, so I click save, and here you can see that my new background map is created in Oracle Analytics. How do I use this? Let's go back to the workbook that we have created earlier for our Zandvoort circuit. Open the workbook. The map is open up. So on the left side of this map view, if you click on the map and then on the left side, the properties, under properties, you have a map tab. It looks like this marker on the map. So what you can do is, under this background map option, you have a few selections that reflect the options available in the background in the console. So going through a few of them. So this is the Oracle BI map that you see, the one that you saw just now. We have Oracle Maps that is a bit more colorful, and it looks closer to what Google Maps is providing. It also showcases the water body, etc. We also have the OpenStreetMap, which is very widely used for open source mapping tool or mapping utilities, and also provide researchers a free option to do mapping. And finally, let's test the Google Maps that was integrated. And here you can see this is a satellite view, and we can actually drag and drop the map just like in Google Maps. And here, Google Maps satellite view is integrated directly to our map. So I hope you are able to do this and successfully imported your Google Maps integrate your Google Maps with the Oracle Analytics. If you have any question, let's take a pause. If any question, feel free to ask in the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll be happy to assist you. Maybe I'll just keep this open for 5 to 10 minutes more for anyone who have any question to ask. But if not, we want to thank you for your patience, and yeah, have fun racing. Thanks very much.